Hello, this is Insane Monster, and we are here for part 12 of What If Deku Had Anti-Venom. Now then, I do hope that you will enjoy the video as well as my other videos, and if you look in the description below, you'll see some merch links for some things you might like. Now then, but while all that is taken care of, hit it. Now then, if you remember, things did change quite a bit from canon in the last part. During the time of their training, they also ended up sparring with Mirio constantly, day by day. This being as a way to help them get used to their powers, well, their new adjusted symbiotes, as well as their classmates also getting used to fighting symbiotes just in case. And with that, we switch over to the League of Villains, who are currently within the same warehouse, mulling over what to do. They somewhat had a mixed bag of good and bad things happen. For one, All for One was taken down and sent to the prison Tartarus, and the null fragment that he was bonded to was outright destroyed without any means of regenerating itself in All for One. And they did get new members, as unusual as some of them may look and are. But currently they had no permanent plans set in order for any new attacks. For right now, they just needed a place to lay low. Even more so considering that their original stable hideout was just invaded and destroyed. So they needed to look for a new place to stay, and one that would hopefully be, well, more secure in hiding there and such. As they hear a knock on the door, it being Twice, who was out, as he stated that there is someone that that wanted to talk to Shigaraki and the League of Villains about some stuff. As he opens it up, revealing Overhaul. As he introduces himself, stating that I would like to work with you. With Shigaraki looking at him, asking in what regard. Overhaul stated that he needed some assistance to pull together a certain plan he's had in the works. However, for that plan to come into fruition, he could use some more hands. With the current situation of high stress, and with his operation going into its final stages of completion. As he gestured at Twice and Duplicate, stating that those two will be quite helpful in what I'm planning. So, what do you say? Magna obviously not enjoying this guy's tone, as Magna tries to use her magnet to attack Overhaul. Agony shoots out a tendril from Muscular's arm, keeping her from using it, as the symbiote just emerge out of the shoulders of their hosts, looking down at Overhaul, with Magna wondering what's going on. As everyone with a symbiote is looking daggers at Overhaul, their partners already filling them in, with Overhaul laughing a bit as Carnage envelops Shigaraki, stating, "It's been a while, Lasher." With a green symbiote enveloping Overhaul, revealing to be the symbiote Lasher, as him and Overhaul remark, "Yes, it has been a while, especially in terms of my spawn siblings," gesturing over at Agony and Phage, which surprises Dobby and Muscular a bit, with Carnage remarking, "So this has been your host for so long. Interesting." As Lasher Overhaul snaps his fingers, stating, "Yes." As the Heiseikai group bursts in, revealing their forces, with Overhaul Lasser stating, "I feel as though we should talk at a later date. If you find my offer enticing, or what I'm planning, because it will change quite literally everything. So, we'll stay in touch and set up a meeting for a more in-depth conversation so that we can make sure there won't be any prying eyes or unwanted ears to know what's going on." As the Hasakai group left, Magna thinking, "Oh, thank God. I could have ended up just getting killed just now." Oh, just letting out a deep breath that Magna's been holding in after seeing Overhaul enveloped by a symbiote, Agony leaned over toward Magna, stating, "You should really be more careful. You could have literally ended up getting yourself killed." As Magna just sits down, thinking about what the world has frickin' come to, as we switch over toward UA, as the buses are leaving after organizing the students to get ready. With this, they head over to the exam site. Once arriving, they get off the bus and see the large structure that they'll be working in. With this, they meet Miss Joke and her class, as they do act quite nice, with Miss Joke gesturing, stating that her and Aizawa should get married, causing Mina and Violet to just kind of make a happy yelp hearing that. So yeah. After some more detailed explanation, since they didn't get any while Miss Joke was there at UA for that whole symbiote bonding thing, as they explained that their agencies were pretty close together while they were training, and that she just kind of got hooked on them. With this, one of her students went to go shake Midoriya's hands, stating that it will be an honor to go against you in the exam. But before he could grab it, Izuku went back, sensing something. Looking at the guy, him and Anti-Venom could hear his surface thoughts, as he just thinks, did he Did he know what I was going to do? As Izuku stated, you guys should probably not let this guy shake your hand. He was about to do something. Not sure what, but I have to figure it has something to do with his quirk that he could use later on in the exam. With venom coming out of Aizawa's shoulder stating, "Nice try, kid, but the symbiotes among all the symbiotes here have a extra sensory ability. So any attempt that would be undesirable to them sets it off." Just smirking with a toothy grin as Miss Joke's class just began to walk. With this, we then just see Seketsu High. As well, as we see that Tokoyami notices that it's Seketsu High, stating that it's more or less the opposite, or at least the rival in Japan, of a hero school to UA. As they do act polite and such, with Todoroki looking over at the students. Just seeing that there is one of them looks familiar. Todoroki has gone through some changes, most of which is the realization that the universe is a lot bigger than what he thought. There's aliens apparently, and not only that, but there was no telling what else was out there, considering that the symbiotes apparently had their own form of Galactus police force kind of deal going on. So yeah, kind of made him reflect on a lot of things, especially people he might have been extremely rude to in the past. Recognizing one of them as one of the Seketsu students, a first year that went along with the second years, due to his very, very high level of performance. Todoroki, seeing him, sighs, marking that, man, a real jerk. Walking up to him, stating, "I'm sorry. I wasn't in a good place back then." As the student states the name's Iyasai. If I'm saying that name wrong, sorry. As he just looks at him and sees something's up with him. When he last saw Todoroki, he just looked arrogant and all in all bad attitude. But this, he looked so somber, or somewhat humbled in a way. Was wondering what the hell happened. Then he looked over at his classmates who were talking with their symbiotes sticking out of their shoulders. Was that it? Doesn't look like he has one, I think, but as he was just getting annoyed by this and walked away, stating that's not now, so just focus on the test. Getting annoyed. He didn't like Endeavor because he was extremely rude to him in the past and just didn't seem like a real hero. When he met Todoroki, it was somewhat similar, but now Todoroki looked genuinely sorry about what he did, and that just made him annoyed. As they get into the building, they change into their hero costume. Now, due to the fact that Toga is among them, Cammy doesn't get, I guess he was drugged and and swapped out with Toga like in canon. But this time it's the real Cammy. So yeah. As they go in, the boys and girls who have symbiotes have their symbiotes mold their costumes over their bodies practically instantly, since it was the easiest way to do it. As there was a mixed bag of feelings in the public of the world about the symbiote. Those with powerful quirks, who more or less gained quite a large ego because of it, saw them as something that would be too dangerous and that they couldn't admit due to their egos could make those without power something that could make them someone who can challenge them. Those with, I guess, mid quirks to low were okay with them. They were concerned about whether or not they ended up in the right hands or, bonded to the right person. Those without quirks at all actually thought it would be a good thing. People without quirks were always looked down on as lesser in their society. This could change that and completely turn it on its head, taking them all on even footing. As for the science community, they were excited about it because the symbiotes could be a key to help advance fields of study that have been drastically neglected over time. Most of all, the space program that was more or less put to a freezing halt due to the appearance of quarks. So there is more, but I won't go into too much detail with that. As they entered the hall, where they would be explained about how the exam would work. The apparently half asleep guy who seems to be managing the whole thing from the safe safety ministry and such was barely able to get through the whole thing explaining the first test. They would each have to have 3 targets placed on them. They needed to take out 2 people each. So yeah, that would at least take the number of who got in down by only to be 1/3 of everyone there. So yeah, as this did concern a number of them, as he then stated that only the first 100 would be allowed to enter to the next phase in order to get their hero's license, shocking all of them. As this was happening, everyone got their tags just put on them, putting them on places all over their body in order to be sure that it would most likely be a place that they could pay a good amount of attention to in order to protect. With the walls coming down from the room they were in, finding themselves in a massive mock field with multiple environments to fight in. As Izuku looked at all of his all of his classmates and such, using the quirk that anti-venom incorporated into himself from Ragdoll, search on all of his classmates, thinking it'd be a good idea to keep track of them as they hurried up and get into it. With Miss Joke's class finding them first, with him smirking and glad that as they were leaving, he was at least able to tap the shoulder of Mineta without him realizing, taking the chance that he could at least tag one of them and that they would all stick together, which they did, causing a flurry of balls going directly toward Class 1A, with Izuku kicking, sending a large gust of wind, as well as Toga sending her symbiote wing feathers out to strike at them, an augmentation of her symbiote that she got from having Toxin bond to Hawks. As for the rest, they were all melted, from Mina creating acid and having Manuel's quirk that was augmented into her symbiote when he visited UA, allowing her to now control her acid freely, creating a large acid wall. Though, our vibrating earthquake friend decides to use his quirk to separate them, shattering the ground, only to have Jiro and Mania stab their vine-like tendrils into the ground and send a incredibly powerful sonic pulse back at his wave, colliding with one another. This causing some massive damage to the area nearby, as more and more enemies were coming at them. This not looking good, Izuku sent a telepathic message to his classmates, telling them that they have to separate, stick into groups, as they did generally do so. Bakugo wanted to go on his own, but was followed by Hiroshima, Denki, and April, who was currently the newest member of Class 1A and allowed to take this test due to some explanation of how things were back where they were from, and how she is trained in combat and such already. As Bakugo just doesn't care at this point, but Blast stating, "Oh, come on. At least be glad you get to have some fun. I'm sure you'll be much better once we have a chance to really let loose." Blast being a bit more calm right now due to being bonded to Ryuko and Denki. Even after the purge, the calming effects of their personality stuck with Blast as a way to counterbalance Bakugo's aggression, as he just scoffs, stating, "Fine, let's just keep going." As they all split it up, similar to in canon, with Izuku ending up with Zero, Uraraka, and Toga in his group. As they begin to run, they get attacked more and more often, as they try to avoid just the onslaught of balls. But Toga, having more aerial abilities as well as Izuku, are able to use their abilities to the best they can in order to avoid, with Izuku using the quirks he's gained and incorporated into anti-venom to move the ground around them to create shields to help Zero and Uraraka, as they tried to think of a way to fight. As Izuku has a plan, but it would mean that both him and Toga would end up more or less a decoy for Uraraka and Zero, giving them the full details about their plan. As Uraraka asks, "Are you sure? What if you get your targets hit?" Anti-Venom remarking, "Don't worry. We're able to assess incoming dangers. Though these barely even register as dangers, but whatever. And we can fly, Remember that, but we're best to keep them occupied with all their attention on us while you set up the groundwork, per se. Agreeing to this, they hurry up and get going so that they could make sure everything was going to be alright. As Izuku used the combination of earth flow and cement in order to shake the ground up massively and move them around a little bit, shifting the positions of their opponents all over, as Toga was flying in the air over them using the released feathers that she could spare without losing flight in order to swipe at them and try to box in anyone that tried to escape Izuku's earth manipulation underneath their feet. As this was going on, similar to as in canon, Zero and Uraraka set up the play for them to use Uraraka's zero gravity on some boulders and Zero's tape strapped onto them that work as a kite of net. Once it was all set, Toga retracted the feather and left as Izuku then just jolted the ground underneath them, causing them to fall. As the boulders were then released by Uraraka with the tape securing them, allowing them to get their marks and able to pass. As we switch over to Momo's group that consisted of Momo, Jiro, Soji, Sue. So yeah, they ended up going into the more urban area of the battleground, heading into a building as they try to get a better lay of the land. With Soji using his quirk to look around, the windows are shot out and the doors are welded shut. Looking around, they were locked in. They couldn't see, and when Jiro tried to use just her earphone jacks, she got massive feedback. As it was lessened a bit from the shock sound wave resistance that she gained from having her symbiote mania bond to her and present Mike, it wasn't as bad. Though, now the vents were just shooting out AC, as they just have Momo and Zero suit webbing to close them up, wondering what they're thinking. With Momo realizing something, stating, "Wait, the UA Sports Festival," when they realized that they saw all of their quirks. As honestly, due to their current capabilities, they weren't anywhere close to where they used to be. Plus, Momo stated that I wasn't able to give it my all because me and Sleeper just spawned 2 new symbiotes. Remember? So we can use our max strength back then. Now, with Sleeper remarking, "Yes, now we're fully prepared," and they think that they understand our capabilities. I believe we should show them how wrong they are. With this being the case, Zero sets up for a massive sonic blast with these equipment she absorbed into her symbiote, as Momo created a large thermal blanket as that had large amounts of soundproofing material that would surround her and her allies, also handing out some noise canceling headphones, retracting Sleeper into herself, being prepared for what Jiro and Mania were about to do. Jiro's original capabilities with her sonic attacks were impressive, but after bonding to President Mike, they became even more so, creating a large speaker, clapping her hands together as they state as one, "Let's see how you like this," sending a giant pulse of sound throughout the entire building that was filled to the brim with a all-girls hero academy students who were being led by one of them who seems to have super intelligence due to, well, depending on what type of tea she drinks. These sounds were vastly more powerful than in canon, causing all of them to be rendered unconscious. With that, they were able to get their marks relatively simple. As Sleeper remarked, that was still very unpleasant, even with the sound protection. As Momo remarked, "Yeah, tell me about it." As she didn't actually get any resistance to the sound vibrational weakness of symbiotes. But with that, they now cleared. Next, we had the Bakugo's group as they were going up to a bridge, looking to gain the high ground, as they met a member of Seketsu High, one surrounded by these meatball-looking things, as he explained what they were, the other competitors, remarking about how so many false heroes have polluted the idea of what heroes stand for to begin with. And the symbiotes could be a rather large threat that no one seems to really be taking seriously. That, yes, in the right hands they can do good, but in the wrong hands they can do even more bad. As Blast didn't really like where this was going. Though, unlike as in canon, with the spider sense that Blast inherited, he was able to take control of Bakugo temporarily to bounce him up into the air with a tendril slap to flip and show Bakugo what was going on, resulting in him tossing some explosive spikes at the meaty mass going for Kirishima. As he scoffed, the Seketsu High student remarked, "How annoying. It seems as though they seem like good companions to have to watch your back, especially when you're ignorant." With Bakugo asking what was that, Blast stating spider sense. "You don't really sense it that often, since you haven't really been in much danger, besides what he was trying to do." So, yeah. Earlier alert system, remember? Like Venom said before its test started. As he smirked underneath the mask covering his face, stating, "Huh, now that's useful." Flaring up dragon wings as he went straight for him, firing off multiple explosive spikes near his feet, sending him back. With Kirishima trying to get in close for an attack, though getting blindsided by one of those meat blob things, turning him into a meatball. As Mania then launched at him, slicing up the meat chunks, seeing that they're just reforming together no matter how many times she slashes them up. Though it seems as though they can't turn her into a meatball or anyone else as long as they are. With this, Hiroshima sees his chance and fires off 2 shots from the metal discs from his wrist launcher. Going over on the opposite side of the bridge from where Bakugo was, he gestured at him with blast stating, "I see what he's getting at. This will be fun." As Bakugo realized it, smirked, showing the toothy symbiote grin. With him stating, "Oh, come on, is that all you have?" The Sugetsu High just boasting, thinking that he's won this already and that they're just prolonging the inevitable, only to have Mania have a spider sense moment and back off, which is where Denki and Blast, who bonded to him to gain electrical powers as well, shoot out electricity following the line of the metal discs, shocking him from 2 sides. As he tries getting up, yelling at them that they aren't going to win, only to have Kirishima punch him in the gut, finally shutting him up. As all the other students that were turned into meatballs end up being turned back, as they go off on them, taking them out. Next, we see, as in canon, that Ida finds our friend Never Stop Twinkling. Because, yes, that is his hero name. Trying to tell him that he should have more confidence in him, like in canon. Though, unlike in canon, when his friends come to the rescue, it is far more efficient, and they do all get into the next stage. As for Cammy, she also gets into the next stage as well. Since this is the real Cammy, and not Toga this time. After that, they were all met up in the area as they were getting the targets removed from them, sighing in relief that they all got through. Next, they were addressed by the security association person who was running this whole thing, who yet again looked like he was about to drop from sleep exhaustion and such, as he remarked that the next phase will begin, causing more or less the whole place to blow up. And if you're wondering about Todoroki, he did pass this part as well, solo as in canon, showing off a destroyed city filled with civilians with fake, or at least fake serious wounds and a couple of scripts. Seeing this, they are given the scenario that a disaster has happened and they are tasked with saving the individuals, also clarifying that these individuals are trained professionals in assisting in hero training. So, yeah. As they go off ahead, similar groups begin to split off and they begin helping people one after another, finding the boy like in canon, with Izuku this time asking if there's anywhere that is he okay? Is there anywhere that you're hurt? As he yells at him to take in consideration about how the hero has to respond to someone who's in panic, that they should try to calm them down first before acting questions, as they do understand this, that they have to be serious about this. They do go and create an area for all the rescued individuals to be placed close to the wall of the area that they were set up in. as Aizawa and Miss Joke are looking down on them. Aizawa stated he seemed to be doing pretty well, all things considered, with Venom stating, "Yeah, honestly, I think the results of what we had them do at UA were more than we expected, since they seem to be utilizing them pretty well. Though that has to do with the memories that the symbiotes have of the quirks incorporated in them, and the memories of how they use them from the ones bonded. Though using them in combination is better said than actually done." As Mixed Joke stated, "Yeah, it was weird bonding the one to be sure. It was like, I don't know, it was like almost having a second me in my body for a second." Venom remarking, "Not completely inaccurate. When when the symbiote bonds to someone, they don't become they don't become him or her, they become we. Like how me and Aizawa are." But as I was saying, speak to yourself, you're still somewhat annoying sometimes. Especially when you leave details out about what you can do. With Venom remarking, "Are you still on about that? I just didn't want to tell you and get shot out of the sky from blue flames." With Miss Joke laughing at this, stating, You guys be killer as a ventriloquist act." With Venom playing along, turning his form into that of a puppet, saying, "You really think so?" Causing her to laugh more. With Aizawa looking at Venom, stating, "Why are you encouraging this?" Venom remarking, "I gotta get my entertainment somehow." With him just face palming at his at Venom's reply, stating, why me?" As for the rest of the class, they were doing pretty well, making sure that they checked everywhere, as well as also making sure that if they had to go into a less than stable location, then they would stabilize it first before attempting to get the person. Of course, this being said, as for Bakugo and Blast somewhat kept Bakugo at least goal focused, remarking about what he's been overhearing from some of these false civilians scolding some of the examinees at the beginning, stating that he has to be careful about what he says as well. So, maybe I should do the talking and you should do the blasting. Deal? With him being annoyed, he stated, "What? Come on." As Mania pipes in, stating, "As a point, you do have to figure that your attitude does count for a part of this grade in order to pass, right?" As he's just annoyed, stating, "Fine, let's just get it over with." As Blast was more casual with the speech, though the body language from Bakugo somewhat made them a little confused, but not enough to knock any points off for the attitude. As they were able to get people out, with Blast extending some dragon wings from when Blast bonded to Ryuko, and got civilians out of some tougher places to be in. With that, it was going pretty well. Even Mina and Toru were using the clone quirk that they got from ectoplasm in order to make more of them and scout all over for more individuals to help. As this was happening, the next phase of this test began, as Gang Orca and a large number of individuals with launchers on their wrists that sought some type of restraining goop kind of clay thing, as they now had to adapt. Instantly, Bakugo Blast, Toxin Toga, and we also see Todoroki and Inse. I mean, sorry, I'm not good at this guy's name. Okay? But they begin attacking the villains. Inasa using his wind in order to redirect the ammunition right back at them to restrain themselves. As Todoroki was freezing them up, and Momo using the quirk that Sleeper put into itself from bonding to midnight to make a large cloud of gas that would put all the villains in the immediate area asleep. As Toxin's feathered wings were snagging onto people, sending them flying into one another, creating a large group that were then kicked by a very powerful full leg kick from Toga, being even further boosted by air pressure coming out of the bottoms of her feet, combining the abilities Toxin gained from bonding to Miriko and Gran Torino. As Gang Orca began to fire off his sonic attack, causing the symbiotes to writhe in pain, who didn't have a particular protection against this, causing them to fall back and switch out, with Jiro, who came in firing her own counter sonic blast as a way to help deal with this. Though this was only one aspect of Gang Orca's quirk, as while performing this sonic attack, he also blitzed towards Mania Jiro, getting stomach punched sent flying. Getting up, slowly recoiling from the damage from that. As next we see Ojiro jump in a giant beast-like form that looked like a monstrous dog. And I don't mean like a normal dog. This thing has 6 legs. Overall, combining Ojiro's power as well as Sickles whenever he bonded to Death Arms, the dog quirk hero who acted as a security officer for UA, and the Class 1B student with the glasses with the quirk Beast. Slamming their body directly into him, sending him further away from the main field, only to be blasted by the sonic attack. As Gang Orca remarked, pushing me further away from the civilians and the heroes evacuating. Not bad, kids. As then Todoroki sent his ice towards him, only to be stopped. As Inasa fires his wind, trying to slam him down to the ground, but his physical strength is pretty impressive. As Todoroki tries to think, he's blasting away my ice, and he could probably do the same with my flames. As he then realized who was above him, Todoroki yelled at him to get his attention, saying, "Hey! Hey!" As Inasa looked at him, being annoyed, stating, "What?" Todoroki stated, "How much rubble can you lift up in the air with your quirk?" Confused for a moment, he thought about it, and then remembered all the rubble he moved as well as the people he did with it in order to simulate their rescue, and then smirked, stating, "Oh, I can do plenty." Using his wind to lift up a large chunk of rubbles just all over the place, controlling the wind in order to float it above Gang Orca and drop it. Once dropped, he wasn't able to fire his sonic attack anymore to stop Todoroki's ice, as the rubble was then encased by the ice. As breathing heavily from this, Todoroki thought it was over. So did Inasa, who was glad that that actually worked, stating that, "I am really glad that he is really tough, because that probably would have killed anybody else." As then they heard a noise coming from the frozen over rubble, blasting outward, revealing Gang Orca, stating, "Yeah, if it was someone weaker, they probably would have ended up dead. At least you take your opponent's strength in consideration when using very damaging attacks like that. Or at least attemptedly damaging." As Miss Joke's student tried to use his vibrations again to crumble the ground underneath Gang Orca, only to find him directly in his face, getting a direct blast of sonic vibrations. As Gang Orca goes for another hit with his fist on him, we see Izuku flying right in, kicking Gang Orca as hard as he can, using the enhanced shoes he got from Mei Hatsume, sending Gang Orca back quite a bit, sliding, grabbing him and just leaving. He tells both Todoroki and Inasa to hurry up and fry the fish. As it took a second for them to think about what he meant, they realized it. Inasa looking at him, scoffing, stating, "Are we doing this?" With Todoroki looking still humbled, which is annoying him a bit still, as he states, "Yeah," blazing his fireside immensely, as Inasa uses his wind to encase Gang Orca in a flaming tornado, combining wind and flame. As this was seen as a pretty good strategy against Gang Orca given his aquatic type nature due to his quirk. So, overall, not the worst strategy, and the students from before were even working hard in order to keep all of his subordinates either restrained, incapacitated, or unable to fight, as well as push him as the greater threat back as far as possible, away from the civilians who were being rescued and tended to. As he just blasted another sonic blast from his head, dispersing the tornado. This being when the bell went off, ending the exam. With this, they were all pretty nervous about whether they passed or not. Due to multiple changes and developments character-wise, they were able to do much better, as well as having some support to help them out. Others developed more character wise in order to help them overcome some ego from their past and regret some past decisions. Overall, all of Class 1A was able to pass, as well as the other students like Inasa and Kami that didn't pass the second part, lacking canon, so they won't need remedial lessons. As they were excited about this and were given papers on where they could improve, with Bakugo getting listed as your words and your body language sends massive mixed signals. Him being annoyed, stating blast you, with blast stating, hey, I kept you from getting so many points taken off for your attitude towards injured civilians. So maybe you should be happy. As he just scoffs, looking at Izuku, thinking, you always, you're hiding something. Gripping his fist, with Blast telling him, look, I agree, it kinda feels like he's hiding something. Though I'm not sure if that's just me or your influence on me. Wait, I think we should talk to him. Clenching his fist as they all left to go back to school. Back at the Yasakai group, Overhaul was talking to his people. As Rappa asked if the league is actually going to be of use, with Overall stating, of course. The name itself has a certain pull to it, and fear. Not to mention they could be helpful. As another one of their group asked, then why did you only ask for 2 members and ones who don't have symbiote? Looking over, he states, because the only symbiote we have to use is Lasser. The other one in our possession is not being very cooperative. It hasn't bonded to any of our people, and we've only been able to keep it alive by giving it animals to bond with. What were the ones it bonded with so far? As another one grabbed their beak-like mask, thinking, stating, well, one was a dog, one was a parrot, another a rabbit, and I think we're on a cat now. But the symbiote is being properly contained in that massive array that we had. If it wasn't for Lasser's intel on symbiote weaknesses, we probably wouldn't have thought of it as a way of containing it, as well as keeping it alive this way. Though it does look kind of crazy from the outside. As they just turn the camera over to a room that has a electrified wall with multiple incendiary devices, aka basically flamethrowers, sticking out of the wall as well. And lastly, on the other side of the walls, high-powered speakers. As they all surround in the room a suspended cage of glass holding a cat figure covered in silver and purple that is not happy that they are there, worried about someone else that they know is stuck in here in an even worse situation than they are. As we turn over to UA, and they are getting pretty excited about attending their new internships in order to start actual hero work. Bakugo gets Izuku's attention, telling him to follow. After some after hour times, I guess you could say. Toga, realizing what's going on, sensing the movement that they're making, decides to follow them secretly. For all, Toxin was one of the more stealthy symbiotes, and one of the only two that wasn't capable of being sensed by the other symbiotes and such. So, yeah. With that, they go to one of the battlegrounds in the urban area, where Bakugo asked Izuku, looking back at him, "You're hiding something." During the time before the entrance exam at the UA, you were training non-stop. Understandable, and given the fact you have a symbiote, it makes it odd that you would actually do that concerning the amount of power it already gave you. But after that, you became even stronger, more and more. And your symbiote as well. It's like it's evolving. Looking at him, he just thinks of the attack as well as what happened with All for One, stating, "You're close to All Might." And that All for One dude seemed pretty knowledgeable about him, more familiar than anything. So what's going on? As he looks away, stating it's nothing. Getting annoyed by this, he shoots up with blast and attacks, as Izuku does the same with anti-venom to defend, and they begin their fight similar to as in canon. This time though, Izuku uses the concrete jungle around them with the quirk that anti-venom incorporated into himself from Cementos to go at Bakugo, only to be met with slicing symbiote blades covered in flames, and having spikes thrown at him exploding. With this, the fight goes pretty similar, though they become somewhat at a standstill since none of them are willing to give up. They both can sense incoming attacks that they can anticipate coming at them, and the symbiotes are doing very well using their tendrils to avoid attacks from odd angles and such, causing them to be exhausted. This is when All Might shows up, yelling at them to stop, with Bakugo annoyed by this, stating, "What is going on? Why are you two so close? When? And how? Doesn't make any sense." With All Might sighing, he remarks, "It's nothing to do with you, young Bakugo, but..." As he looks at Izuku, and Izuku and Anti-Venom tell him telepathically, "It's fine." I think he can be trusted. As Izuku smirks, looking at him. As All Might and Izuku tell Bakugo everything. As he's somewhat calmed down now, realizing that this happened, at least all started after the sludge villain attack. As he asked who else knew. As All Might stated, "Well, Izuku knows, as you already get. But as for staff, there's also Principal Nezu recovery girl and a mentor of mine and such. But young Toga also knows. As Izuku looks over, stating, yeah, she knows. As he flinches, remembering that, oh yeah, Izuku can sense us telepathically. He doesn't need the sense you toxin. But toxin stating, yeah, how did you forget that? As Bakugo sighed, really, even her? Jeez, I'm really out of the loop. As All Might stated, it's fine. It was something that was supposed to keep secret for obvious reason. As he sighs, remarking, yeah, I get it. If this got out, there'd be a whole bunch of trouble. Who knows what some villain or whoever might try to do to get that power. And the mere fact is, it's also bonded to anti-venom, isn't it? In a way. Causing anti-venom to reply, yes. Part of it has to do with this. As he uses his venom, so he doesn't like using it on people that much. Not sure where exactly the line is sometimes in its voltage, since it can sometimes get away from them. As he just sighs and states, fine. So, as he looks at Zuko and extends a hand, helping him up after the exhausting fight they had. Later, once they got to the dorms, they got a good scolding from Aizawa, which All Might calmed him down after explaining some things, stating that they all have been pretty stressed, and Bakugo only recently relatively found out about aliens and such, and has been bonded to one, to give him some slack. As Venom pipes in, stating symbiotes can have the side effects to enhance various emotions, so you should keep that in mind. Since you do seem to be highly agitated more than you may remember being before. As he just sighs, remarking, fine, but you two are suspended for 3 days and will be cleaning the entirety of the dorm during that time. As they accepted. As they went back to their dorm rooms and went to sleep, Izuku was just done with today, falling asleep peacefully. As Toga, seeing all that from that night, was just wall crawling, seeing Izuku from his window with her eyes glowing red. Next morning, Izuku wakes up to finding himself in a red cocoon looking thing, asking, what the hell is this? Anti-venom coming out of his neck, stating, oh, yeah, when you fell asleep, I think Toga's emotional state was quite erratic after that whole fight thing. And the fact that you didn't rat her out as well whenever she followed us. But it seems as though she just wanted to hug you, and her high emotional state made her clock out. As for the cocoon that's currently encasing you from the neck down, I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe it's just some kind of comfort thing, like Aizawa in that sleeping bag of his. As he tries to wake up Toga to get up. As he wakes up realizing the situation, freaking out about how this happened, she's explained as she is visibly blushing, steam coming off of her head, stating, oh, would kill me. With Izuku patting her head, stating, "It's fine. You didn't do anything too crazy, you just fell asleep." Oh, and I always knew you did actually get overexcited when it came to combat and fighting. Though, not that surprising, actually. What is surprising is that you didn't say anything, looking at anti-venom sticking out of his shoulder, stating, "Yeah, I just wanted to know what she was thinking. Apparently it was more of a trance state." Toga asking trance state? Remarking that, as Toxin remarks, they should probably hurry up and get going to their own room, causing Toga to remember it is morning and they had to get going. So they did. On the way there, Toxin told her it most likely has to do with the hormonal imbalance due to being teenagers combined with the whole symbiote enhancing emotions. So, yeah, somewhat erratic. But all that happened is that you fell asleep on top of him, and for some reason turned me into a cocoon. Still don't get that one. And I'm freaking bonded to your brain. But Toga's stating, "Shut up." And this is where we'll be leaving this for this part. I do hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment and whatever. Hope you'll be having a good day, and I'll see you guys later.